the biggest challenge for me was that going back to that scarcity mindset that I had about paying off debt and, oh my gosh, I need to live with no mortgage. That was my mindset, was like always playing defense and not really playing too much offense from that side of things. And so I had all this profit. I was generating so much profit because I was very profitable, but I was running myself ragged doing everything. And what ended up happening was I realized, okay, well, I just have a really high paying job. I need to, fill all these buckets in the business. I need to build out an actual team that can delegate things to and keep replacing myself and basically buying back my time. So about 2 years ago, I said, okay, it's Operation Fire Phil. I was blessed that I was able to pay off my mortgage for my actual house, and I had no debt again. So I'm like, now is the time. I need to fire Phil, get Phil out of everything except for the things that I like to do. And it was Operation Fire Phil season. So it was basically how much does it cost, and let's go get after it. And so that was how I was able to replace myself.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of The Root of All Success. I am your host, the real Jason Duncan. I've got a great guest with me today. His name is Phil Risher. He's the owner of Phlash Consulting. That's Phlash with a PH, just like Phil is, Phil with a PH. Although, you know what, Phil, I work with a guy on the marketing team that is Philip with an F. I've never seen that before. But he's from Europe. He's from Europe. So how do they do things different over there? But anyway, Phil, welcome to the show, man.
Yeah, thanks, man. It's good to connect with you. Had you on my show. Glad to be back, talking with you, and excited to talk today.
Well, you know what? Since you brought that up, I don't think I've got to end my questions to ask you about today, but us podcast listeners like to listen to good podcasts. So why don't you take a minute and plug your show, because I was a guest on your show. Tell everybody about that and then go bookmark that and listen to that later.
Yeah, for sure. It's called Whole Squad Eats, and find it on Apple, Spotify, that stuff. YouTube is under Phlash Consulting, our YouTube channel. We talk to business owners about growing their business. Experts like you come on and share strategies to help you grow your business and scale. So it's a great podcast for any business owner that's out there.
And say the name again.
Whole Squad Eats is on Apple, Spotify, or you can go on YouTube on our YouTube channel, Phlash Consulting, and the experts are going to be there.
All right. So Phil, you went from paying off 30 grand in student loans and saving 60 grand by the age of 25. And now you're running a 7-figure consulting firm. Was entrepreneurship always the plan, or did something unexpected push you in that direction?
Yeah, I was always a very creative person. Even in high school, I was a little rapper, making content and stuff here and there. And I just like to make content and be creative. And when I came out of college, I had 30,000 in student loans, and I'm a big Dave Ramsey guy. And so I moved into my dad's basement. I never lived with him before, and I paid off the student loans. Then I saved up for the next 2 years and saved the 60,000 cash, and I bought a condo with cash in Section 8. And it was just me and my dog living there. And my wife was a kindergarten teacher, and all her friends were like, how did you pay off your student loans and buy this house with cash? I live right outside of the DMV in DC, and it's very expensive. And people were like, how did you do this? So I started a blog, a WordPress website, just sharing all these strategies and tips and tricks on things, because I was very creative. And so I created this blog, and I realized that I'm putting out all this content. This is pre-ChatGPT in 2015. And I'm putting out all this content, and I figure I need to do email marketing. I need to do social media content. And I start to learn how to actually do marketing. And so I think, to answer your question, I'm not just naturally oh, I have to go be a business owner. I can't stand, owners of people telling me what to do. It's just naturally, I'm a creative person. I like to solve problems, and it just kind of developed into a business.
Well, and you were working at Enterprise Rent-A-Car, so you left a stable job at Enterprise to pursue digital marketing and business consulting. What was the moment when you knew it's time to make this big leap?
Yeah. All right. So it gets a little crazy here. So I was blogging, and I got featured in a bunch of stuff. I had about 40,000 people to my website every single month, reading all my content, subscribing. I had affiliate stuff like that. And I was like, I'm going to just give it a go. I had no debt. I didn't have any mortgage. I had no student loans, nothing, no car payment or anything. So I actually bought a school bus, and I made a little tiny home. And then my dog and I traveled around the country for about 3-4 months in this school bus. And I was just making content. I was going into news stations and just doing live broadcasts about my story and my journey, and getting people to my website and subscribing, all that. When I came back, one of my clients from Enterprise was a duct cleaning company. And I was, maybe I'm going to do speaking, maybe I'm going to be this influencer thing. I don't really know. And my client was like, hey, I need someone to help me that knows local service business, because I went through the enterprise management trainee program and I was one of the best branch managers in the area. And someone that also knows technology, like digital marketing stuff, to help me grow. So I was like, okay, cool. When I went to work there, my worlds collided. Like my enterprise experience of running a local service business, getting paid off the bottom line, in conjunction with my digital marketing and converting leads into sales and nurturing clients and converting them from leads to sales, all that came to a head. And in the first year, we went from 3 million to 4 million in revenue. And he had been in business for 20 years at that time. And he's like, oh my gosh, this guy's amazing. So kind of all just came to a head of that transition period of, it kind of is crazy that it all just worked out. But yeah, that's basically how I got into the home service space. And then, yeah, I was really pushing sales. And most business owners, when you get someone on your team who's just like grinding for growth, it can be very uncomfortable, because the level of growth that I was used to at Enterprise was like very aggressive. Like at all costs, we're growing. And he was like, dude, we're doing fine. We went from 300,000 in profit to 900,000 in profit. Like, I think we're good. And I was just like so hungry, just getting after it. And he's like, you need to go be a consultant. He named my company Phlash Consulting. And then he got me my first 2 clients plus him and was like, go do this. You're going to be great.
Wow. So
Yeah.
what were the key strategies that made such a dramatic impact on his business?
Yeah. So the big ones were this. First, most home service businesses don't have a lead problem. They have a lead management problem. So everyone calls in and says, how much does it cost? Can you do this? Or they're sending in web forms online. And you have all these leads swirling around you with your customer service representatives and everything. This company in particular was getting 40 to 50 leads a day, but they weren't managing their booking rate. They weren't managing all the leads that were coming in to actually build a lead nurture process to get people from lead to sale. So people will call and say, how much does it cost? They just say, oh, it's $500. And then they just say, cool, I'll call you back. And the lead's gone. And they didn't have any actual call script or lead management process. So that was a big one. The other one is retargeting. Most companies miss this. All the people that ever come into your business, prospects, customers, you have to email them and text them and talk to these people to bring them back into your funnel. And so those are like 2 of the big ones that we still use to this day that most people miss out on, that made a big impact in his business.
Many entrepreneurs get stuck in the midst of doing everything themselves. How did you transition from being hands-on in marketing to scaling Phlash Consulting and to a full-fledged business?
Yeah. And this was something that was so hard for me, because I made that transition, right? He's like, hey, go be a consultant. And basically he's like, sell your time for money. I wanted to make 100,000. So he's like, here's 20 hours, $50 an hour. Go charge this to 2 other people and you'll make 100,000. So that was like how I started, just trading my time for money. Then I got referred to another client and I didn't have any more time to give. So then I had to productize my service to figure out, okay, well, what exactly do I do for these people? And how can I make a productized service that I can bolt on different components? So a big part for me was like, figure out a profitable service that I can offer that is scalable, that doesn't involve me. And the part that I was providing was the consultation piece. And then eventually I got to the point where I couldn't be the consultant anymore. So I had to bring on consultants and then plug them into this system that was in place. And so for me, being able to plug all these holes and make sure that it still got the results that we needed was how I was able to get out of actually doing the consulting.
And you went from 6-figure to 7-figure business in just 2 years. That's impressive. So congratulations.
Yeah.
But what was the biggest challenge in that transition, and how did you overcome that?
Yeah. So 2 years ago, we did about 600,000. Then last year we did about 1.1. And then this year we're going to do probably like around 2 million-ish for our business. The biggest challenge for me was that going back to that scarcity mindset that I had about paying off debt and, oh my gosh, I need to, live with no mortgage. And that was my mindset, was like always playing defense and not really playing too much offense from that side of things. And so I had all this profit, like I was generating so much profit because I was very profitable, but I was running myself ragged doing everything. And what ended up happening was I realized, okay, well, I just have a really high paying job. Like I need to, fill all these buckets in the business. I need to build out an actual team that can I delegate things to and keep replacing myself and basically buying back my time. So about 2 years ago, I said, okay, it's Operation Fire Phil. I was blessed that I was able to pay off my mortgage for my actual house, and I had like no debt again. So I'm like, now is the time. I need to fire Phil, get Phil out of everything except for the things that I like to do. And it was Operation Fire Phil season. So it was basically like, how much does it cost? And like, let's go get after it. And so that was how I was able to replace myself.
What's one mistake you made early on with your business that now looking back was a key learning moment for you?
It was the hero syndrome. I know I'm the hero. Like the hilarious part about this is like, I've never worked at a digital marketing company in my entire life. Like I have no idea. I mean, I've done it for a long time and I learned things, but like, how am I going to know how to do this when there's other people out here that have spent 10 years, 20 years just doing like Google ads, for example. So why don't I go bring those people on my team? And that was a really big thing for me was, yeah, I have ideas and things that can be done, but I need to go get other experts and bring them into the business and that was a big game changer for us because I didn't have to be the one that was like making all these ideas.
So you've worked with many home service businesses, HVAC, plumbing, electrical companies. What's a common marketing mistake you see in those industries that holds businesses back besides the fact they're not following up on the leads that you already
Yeah.
talked about?
Yeah. So most of them are just, they're just running from thing to thing. Hopefully, it works. So there's two really big ones that we see a lot of time. First, they don't have a return on ad spend. So they're praying to the Google gods that they get leads and they don't know if it actually turns into real revenue for their business. So the first thing is try to, work with a company or figure out how am I going to track my return on ad spend on a monthly basis. You're doing all this marketing, you're running ads, but how are you going to make sure that it actually works inside of your CRM so that you have it? The second piece is people ask me all the time, well, Phil, how much should we be spending on ads? How much should I do on this? How much should I do for this? And it's very simple. Most home service businesses are spending 3 to 10% of their revenue on marketing. That's not me saying it. That's CFOs of $100 million home service businesses. That's the number. So if you're doing $1 million, you should spend 30 to 100,000 on marketing. And then you figure out what's actually working and then you put the budget towards that. So the two big things is you're not tracking return on ad spend, and two, you don't have a marketing budget. You're just looking at your checking account saying, oh, I got an extra $5,000. Let's go do some marketing.
Yeah. Now you also developed something called the Phlash customer journey framework that helps businesses, that helps them grow consistently. Can you break that down and share why it works so well?
Yeah, there's three main components in this. And the first thing is visibility. This is usually what people think of when they think of marketing is getting new customers coming in. This is things like organic search online, running ads, social media ads of some sort, B2B partnerships, postcards, referrals, anything that's bringing new customers in the door. That's visibility. Most traditional marketing companies are going to do that. And that's kind of bringing things into the funnel. Then you have the actual funnel, which is the second stage, which is conversions, which is you need to get the leads. So you need to convert the leads. So when someone fills out a form on your website, you got to text them, email them, call them, kind of like the lead nurture sequence that I mentioned before. So in the conversion funnel, you have leads, you have jobs, you have estimates that you're sending out, and then you have estimate follow-ups. So that way you can get sales. Then the last pillar to this is retargeting. So all these people come through your funnel and now you need to retarget them. You need to ask for referrals. You need to do an email newsletter to them. You need to retarget them on social media if you're going to run ads towards these people, and then text them. You can't get lifetime value without a lifetime relationship. So if you don't do that retargeting piece, you're missing out on the whole flywheel of growth. And you're just going to be fighting for new customers over and over again without getting all of that benefit of the past customers. So those are the three things in the Phlash customer journey when we look at a customer coming into the business, going through the funnel, and then coming back in or referring us on the back end.
So Phlash Consulting doesn't just help companies grow, it also helps position them for acquisition. So what are the top things that business owners should do if they want to see a successful exit?
Yeah, we had a company that we started working with. They were doing about 3 million in revenue and they went to 8 million in 36 months and then sold to private equity. We had another one that was doing 2 million, went to 4 million, sold to private equity in 1 year, and several other stories just like that. The big thing is these private equity or other people that are coming in to buy companies, that customer journey that I just mentioned is exactly what they're going to put into your business when they buy it. And so if you can get it set up for them, not only is it already set up for them so they don't have to do it, but it also adds a ton of value in the sale process because you have this predictable marketing game plan in your business. So a very simple one is most acquirers from our experience, because we work on both sides with businesses, they want a predictable revenue stream that's going to be coming in every single month. So if you already have an email cadence and a text message cadence and proof of revenue from this retargeting campaign and returning customers, you're going to get a higher multiple when you go to sell the company because you already have proof that you have a system. So when they buy the company, it's not going to fall apart. The other thing is when you have your numbers dialed in on the front end, very predictable return on ad spend data, then the acquirer doesn't have to try to figure that out. They can say, okay, well, if I just turn this dial here and turn this dial here, like nothing's going to fall apart and I can just make it better from an internal process.
Yeah. If a home service business is doing, let's say, $1 to $2 million in revenue, but it feels stuck, what's the first thing that they should focus on to break through that plateau?
Yeah, this guy, Dan Martell, he has a great book called Buy Back Your Time. And he has this 5-rung replacement ladder that he talks about. And the first rung is admin. So a lot of times they have a CSR, but the CSR, customer service representative, they have someone who's answering phones, but they're not fully managing the inbox. They're not managing the owner's inbox. The owner's all over the place. So they need to make sure their admin is tight. Second is delivery. The delivery piece is your technician. A lot of times, the home service business owner is the best technician, and then they end up turning into this business owner. So you have to get out of the delivery piece. The third one is marketing. Most of the times they're the chief marketing officer, has all these ideas. They got to replace themselves for marketing. Then the fourth thing is the sales. They're the best salesperson in the company or the only salesperson. And usually the 1 to 2 million mark, they fit in all those different hats. And so they really have to try to figure out, okay, I need to pull myself out of these different pieces and really focus on scaling the business and building this operational team inside of their business. I would say that's a big thing just from an infrastructure perspective. From a marketing side of things, it really comes down to that lead management plan and knowing your numbers. So there's a couple numbers that we look at for home service businesses. We want to see your lead count year over year. So how many leads did you get? Obviously. Then your job count. How many jobs did you run? Then your estimate count. So estimates are a really big one because if you generate more estimates, you're going to grow your business. There's no way that you can't if you have a good sales process. Then you want to also focus on your sales conversion rate. And lastly, obviously, sales growth. So those are some of the big things. If you're 1 to 2 million and you don't know those numbers and you're stuck in any of those seats that I was mentioning, those are the things that I would focus on to get out of those seats and start growing up.
You've been very successful in a short amount of time. So what would you, if you had to pinpoint the one key to your success, what would it be?
Yeah, for me in particular with Phlash, I would say the benefit that I have of being financially stable personally and my personal life, like with my wife, I actually started the business over our honeymoon. So my wife and I, we got married, went on our honeymoon. When I came back, I was like, okay, I'm owning this business now. And she was very supportive. And we knew like, okay, you got to make this much money every single month and then we're good. And that number was $5,000. And actually for the first 5 years in business, I only pay myself $5,000 a month. Because it was like, that's all that I need. And everything else would be profit and I can take distributions as I need. But I would say the biggest thing for me was just having such a stable home life and structure and I didn't have to sell from a place of scarcity. I could just, if I could solve your problem, great. If not, it's all good. Hopefully I can help you out. It just really helped me go every single day so that I didn't feel like I was, about to just like lose everything, I guess is what it is.
So how do you personally define success?
Yeah. I listened to your podcast, so I'm like, okay, I'm sure I'm going to get that question. When it comes to success for me, it really comes down to just helping people. Like there's a money component to it, but even when I was traveling in the bus and just, making cool content and helping people online, I wasn't making a ton of money by any means, like a couple $100 a month or something. But I felt like I was living my purpose and I was successful from just like a day to day. I loved what I was doing. And even still to this day, I feel like as long as I'm helping people, I'm a Christian. I know you are too. There's a Bible verse that God is love. If you don't love, then you don't know God. And I truly believe that, you just treat people with respect and you love people and you want to help people. And for me, that's what success is all about.
So by that definition, do you consider yourself to be successful?
Yeah, absolutely. Every single day. It's a success as long as I'm helping someone that day. Yeah, for sure.
I love it. I love the confidence in that. That's really great. Well, before we get into our rapid fire segment, I want to take a moment to thank today's sponsor, and that is Dub. I want to thank Ruben and Darius and the guys over there because they've built an amazing piece of software. If you want to leverage video messaging to close more sales, to build better relationships, what you need to do is you need to check out Dub. You can go check them out and get a free trial and get 2 months at 50% off. That's at therealjasonduncan.com/dub. That's spelled D-U-B-B. Therealjasonduncan.com/dub. It is a game changer for business communications. I will say I've been a user of theirs, a customer of theirs for a very long time. And I was very pleased when I had a conversation with them and they wanted to be a sponsor of the show because they love what I'm doing and they want to communicate with people like you as a listener. So go check it out, therealjasonduncan.com/dub. Thank you. All right, so let's do this rapid fire. We only have a few of these. Let's go with this. Biggest marketing trend that you think businesses should pay attention to in 2025?
Yeah, I get this question a lot when it comes to AI. Everyone's like, okay, well, traditionally in home service or anything is like, just go to Google and Google it. But now Google is not the domination, right? There's ChatGPT, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Amazon, all these different search platforms that people are utilizing. I actually had Neil Patel on my podcast, who's one of the OG SEO type people. And what him and I talked about was SEO used to be search engine optimization. Now it's search everywhere optimization. And how can you optimize for search everywhere? This is a question every single person is asking. And the number one thing that he shared and that I agree with is it's all about brand. And how can you set up a brand that all these platforms, whatever it is, recognize you as the subject matter expert and the go-to person? For home service in particular, it goes back to Google reviews, but it also goes to omnipresence and adding value. So Google has this thing called the EAT principle: expertise, experience, authority, and trust. So you want to be creating content around this. So that's a big mistake that a lot of people fall into, is they're just, praying to the Google gods and they're going to get stuck because Google's going to be changing in the next 2 to 3 years and it's going to be changing to AI. And so you got to be ready for that. And you have to be always, branding, building your business from there.
Favorite business book or podcast that's made a huge impact on you?
Man, there's so many. I would say Buy Back Your Time is a huge one, and Profit First is a huge, let me say Profit First is number one. Profit First, I know you and I talked about this and you're big on that, but yep. Profit First, to me, I started when I first started the business, and it gave me permission to help me scale my business through profit so that I can have a debt-free company and scaling through profit and having a great profit margin. And I would say that's the number one book and number one thing. If you're not doing Profit First, you're really missing out.
Agreed. 100% agreed. And what's one thing you wish more business owners understood about digital marketing?
It's not just Google Ads and SEO. There's so much more that you can do from a marketing and website perspective to generate leads for your business. I mentioned email marketing and text marketing, but there's other ways you can set up B2B partnerships through digital marketing. You can set up different landing pages and things to incentivize your technicians to get more estimates. There's so many ways that you can grow your business using technology and digital marketing, not just traditional paid ads, return on ad spend stuff.
All right, Phil. Well, listen, man, I'm really glad we connected. I don't remember how we met and how this all started, but I'm really glad that we did. I know you're in Maryland, I'm in Tennessee, and I love what you're doing with your clients. Congratulations on all your success. And I'm sure there's going to be somebody listening to this show that says, I want to talk to Phlash Consulting. I want to talk to Phil. How would they get in touch with you?
Yeah, so if you are a home service business owner doing between 1 and 10 million, we'd be happy to talk to you about your digital marketing. You can go to phlashconsulting.com, PHLASH consulting, and you can discuss your business. If you're just a business owner, you like what I'm talking about, LinkedIn is great. I'm pretty active on LinkedIn. We have a YouTube channel, Phlash Consulting, and just general, happy to talk, add value any way I can.
I love it. Phil, thank you so much for being on the show, man.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for having me.
All right, you know what time it is. It's time for another edition of JD's Public Service Rants. This is the part of the show where I call out the little things that shouldn't have to be said out loud, but clearly they do. So if you're guilty of this one, well, consider yourself officially put on notice. And this is probably my number one rant of all time, of all these public service announcements, and I saved it for this episode with Phil. The left lane, people. The left lane is for passing. Not sightseeing, not casual cruising. It is for passing. If you're just hanging out in the left lane, going the same speed as a car next to you, well, congratulations. You've just created a rolling roadblock and everybody hates you. Move over. Let traffic flow. and let the faster drivers get where they need to go. It's not just common courtesy. It's literally the law in most states. I know it is here in Tennessee, and I wish I could arrest these people. Well, that's it for today's JD's Public Service Rants. If you've got an idea for one of these, send it over my way. And remember, don't be that guy. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of The Root of All Success. Loved having a conversation with Phil today. Go check him out. Check his podcast out. If you need any information about how to get in touch with him, check out my show notes. therootofallsuccess.com. There's the show notes there. If you're watching this on YouTube, just scroll down. There's in the description, there's all kinds of show notes about Phil, about this show. If you need anything at all, it's all right there. Make sure you tune in again next time when I talk with yet another very successful entrepreneur about his or her journey to success. As always, I am the real Jason Duncan, and Jesus is King.
Attention business owners. Attention business owners. Feeling burnout from running your business? Uncertain if you're nearing burnout? Take our free 10-question business burnout test at businessburnouttest.com to discover where you stand. With just 10 quick questions, you'll learn how to immediately begin making changes to regain freedom and success. Cut your daily operations time in half. Improve your quality of life and prepare your business for your future exit without losing revenue or profit. Visit businessburnouttest.com now and take the test. Thank you for listening to another edition of The Root of All Success with the real Jason Duncan. If you've enjoyed this week's episode, visit therootofallsuccess.com to access the show notes and other helpful resources. Follow Jason on social media at The Real Jason Duncan. See you again next time here on The Root of All Success.
This podcast is a part of the C-Suite Radio Network. For more top business podcasts, visit c-suiteradio.com.